So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end as per Yeshayahu the prophet. We find a layer of understanding of the spring feast, the autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste from many centuries. And as we read then the holy instructions, it's very profitable for us understanding then how compact was then Yeshayahu, and then the layer relating with Daniel the 11th chapter. As we read chapter 1:8, we understand then the Gentiles were included in a plan of the end, because you find then this particular chapter, then the city of the Messiah returning on the land of Cush, precisely where then John or Yohanan was at. And then not only this, but then the Gentiles included in a plan. Speaking of the Gentile level as far as trade is concerned, we find then Daniel the 11th chapter related with it. There is a very important information coming from overseas, where then you find the nation of Brazil is truly pushing forward for the privacy of the new system. We understand very precisely that in Daniel the 11th chapter was then englobing, or then was involved the entire globe as far as the trade of the end. The Creator is started showing the world how His government is going to be in the future, and He's giving then a glimpse for a few years, so then people can make a decision, either remain as filthy and scoundrels as they are, or they can make a decision of then reading the holy instructions from the Israelic lineage and then making a decision later what government is the best. We can easily say via then the Messiah and what he said and what he did, then the government of the Creator is truly the best. Let's try then read during this time what's going on in the nation of Brazil. The BRICS nations, regarding then the new system of the end, is then, from the Brazilians' viewpoint, as far as government, trying to control this system via a submarine cable. Then later came another article in Reuters. It's also a British newspaper, very popular and very reliable, where then the president of Brazil then made a quick switch from BRICS cable and then the avoidance of spying. Very nice cover-up. But at the same time, we find then the latest news regarding then Brazil's Cosan. It's a company related with the fuel and then ethanol and sugar, then proposing a purchase of the American logistic Latina logistic, named then ALL, and the company is very big. It is a very big company in South America, related is specific, very specific, related with transportation. So then at the same time you find in the Brazilian government firstly involved with the cable linking Brazil with the Europe and then the peninsula, and then later became direct link with Lisbon, and then later they have this article related with the most powerful company as far as the railroad is concerned. So then there is no way of hiding what the Creator is doing, because as far as we can understand, they may want to cover up the new system via spying and so on and so forth, but then at the other side you find transportation, as it was said many times before, becoming extremely important. Not only this, but then the government is trying to get a hold of the new system, thinking they can control the people. The people can't be controlled anymore. The reason why, it's because the new system is coming via internet. As long as there is not a linker linking up then the US monetary system, because of the Second World War, back then the world was in an uproar, was very disorganized. Then, because what America did via the Second World War, was the most powerful nation back then, industry-wise speaking also, then we find ourselves then in a predicament. How is it going to work, this new system? Must have a linker linking up then USD and then the Chinese system. If we don't have this system, China is going to rule powerful, very powerful. Let's then understand what this means. This railroad company is in the market for many years. As we can understand, Brazil has purchased one time 12 digits of Soviet air protection system. And not only this, but then because of the BRICS nations are gathering in Fortaleza in Brazil, then precisely from Fortaleza in the state of Ceará in Brazil, then reaching to Europe, and at the same time then they come up with this purchase. It's obvious the federal government of Brazil is trying to get a hold of transportation, because they do understand the new system is coming, and there is no way for the ports and airports of handling so many volumes and volumes and volumes of packages. So the government is truly trying to get a hold of some sort of a transportation on their own, thinking they can then later link up and come up with their own industries. It was explained before Daniel the 3rd chapter, where the first king, the king of Babylon, came up with a statue of himself, the entire statue of gold, thinking because he had so many resources, then he could do what he wanted. In fact, he did. However, the statue didn't work, did it? And precisely then, regarding the instructions, the new system will come via the computer. There is not cable or cables in the world that can put these under the control. But they can use the cable for another reason. They can have, for instance, the system via internet, and at the same time place the signal of the internet in a cable and then come into Brazil. At least redundant, but can be used for something. So the spying problem is not truly the main focus of the situation. The problem of the future, it is directly related with the volume. The volume is the true problem of the system. Obviously the linker plays a great role in it, but as nations are becoming more aware of the new system, obviously purchases from overseas going to be absolutely the utmost importance. However, when it gets to port, even though they have the money to pay for the product, there will be so many and the volume so high, and simply the system in the nation won't be able to handle it. And some people are very skeptical, explaining, but if people can get the package, it only simply rots in the port and nobody gets the product. The problem is the volume. It's not paying the taxes and after receiving the product. It's the volume at the port, at the airports, and the transportation system and logistics. The volume is extremely big, and the nations won't be able to cope with it. So Daniel was very specific. He was then obviously from the lineage, but he worked most of his life under pagan kings. It does not mean that Daniel was pagan. Daniel was working for pagan kings. And he did have a great grip regarding this fort of the new system. He knew it. He didn't have the details as far as the nations and names and systems and computers, but he did understand the high knowledge. It would be related with some sort of a system higher than his own time. And he wanted more information, but unfortunately the angel did not give. When he was probing around, the angel simply said, simply stop with the understandings and then leave it alone. So he did. Ever since, Daniel did not have any more dreams related with the time of the end, as we can understand via then the existing Megillas. This then gives us another viewpoint of the system and a truly giver of the entire understanding as far as what Daniel was explaining, what Yeshayahu explained, what Ezekiel has explained. These layers are directly related, and the Brazilian government gave the answer. Because of the BRICS related with the new system, visiting next month, the month of March, then Brazil decided to find then this system via cable. Already is giving you the answer. And not only this, we have a Dragon Mart, the most important market in the world, coming from China, opening up then in April, mid-month. Roughly mid-month. So then, not only then in Cancun, Mexico is going to be opening then the first phase of Dragon Mart, there is a Dragon Mart also in Dubai, in Arabia, and it's going to have also in South Africa. So if you try to cover the problems with cheap understandings such as trying to come up with some sort of a cable, it won't work. It was said many times, this cable won't have any relevancy as far as the new system. Where do we find the answer? The answer was given via the Brazilian government itself. Firstly then, in the article of the BRICS Post, came then the specific description of the BRICS cable. BRICS is the new system. It's the system of the trade of the end. Then later, because of these, then they switched around and decided to have this cable only for security reasons and for military use. And the people already know that it's not. They are trying to get a hold of the control of this new system, and they can't. They simply can't. When the Creator wants certain situations done and take care of, He does it. He is absolutely the best regarding these, and He will get what He wants. So then, not only this, the Soviet Union also is freshening the BRICS banking. And the article that came out this morning, it states in a very few years, around 5 years or so, then for the BRICS system mounting 100 times 12 digits. But we understand that the system will come much faster than we can ever imagine. Because the world truly is in trouble. Nations are in trouble. Nations are in debt. And the old system of the 1,000 years of deceit has already ended. But we have a few remnants of this period. And governments are trying as much as they can, and they are precisely during the time of Daniel, the 3rd chapter. They try to build the statue of gold of their own. However, for those people who are skeptical, not to say scoundrels, because they lack the proper understanding, so then they can direct, for instance, mining, transportation, logistics, places where people can then be prosperous in the future. Most importantly is the understanding of tabernacling. Because it was said before, we are speaking of firstly the Gentile level. And the Gentile level is always directly related with the trade. Then we shift to Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, where those couple of sticks of authority and so on and so on, they are granted for the first son, the second son. So people can be directed properly. What's going to give the most money? Logistics, mining, driving, for instance, heavy machinery, trucks, trains, aircraft, airports, ports, whatsoever is related with infrastructure, it is the most important. But governments are trying to get a hold of the system by expanding themselves more than they should have. You find governments spending more. You find governments enlarging themselves. You find more scoundrels than ever, liars beyond imagination. And they lie, plain lie in your face in the television. And people don't have power to go against them until the system comes. So let's praise the Creator for a great job done, because He knows what He does. So then, these articles are then in Reuters from Great Britain, and also the BRICS Post. Those you can read. And the BRICS Post, there is a translation in many languages, including Portuguese. So then people can be more aware of what's coming in the future. And not only this, but people should be aware of that the government might sequestrate their savings. There is this chance. In Brazil already had taken place in the future in the 90s, and it was very detrimental. This move of the government trying to get a hold of logistics because they are trying to get a hold of some sort of a system of their own, it won't work. It was said many times before. But as we then read the instructions and we understand the simplicity of the system, if you are familiar with eBay or Amazon, you can understand. You have then a selection of products, and you have a form of payment, either PayPal or some other paying system where it's linked up with your bank. The new system only gives you a third step of investment. And you select a product, you project what nations would use and what not. And then the next month, depending upon how much you invest in the number of products, you get a tiny share in return. It's extremely simple. And people, they must be normal in the future. In other words, they must work. This will give many people a relief, because a lot of people, they can get jobs. A lot of people, they can be stable. They can get simple driver's license for trucks or then tractors and work. And companies will pay top money for those jobs. So then, as we read the instructions, let's enjoy it, because the time is very crucial. And we are then coming very closely of this time of downloading. And the more the time goes, the more nations are in trouble, the more they can get a hold of this system, the more frustrated they get, until the system comes. Then they can complain, because we did not know. It was explained many times. So then please stay tuned. Much more coming up.